Nathan Crawford sat alone at a corner table in the Riverside Cafe, adjusting his watch for what felt like the 100th time. At 30, he'd finally agreed to a blind date, mostly because his sister wouldn't stop insisting that he needed to live a little. On paper, Nathan's life was flawless. A successful corporate lawyer, dark hair, always in place, expensive suit, gold watch inherited from his father. The picture of success, but inside, he felt hollow, like he was performing a role he'd forgotten the purpose of. The cafe was cozy. All warm brick walls and golden light that made strangers look like they belonged in a movie. Nathan had arrived early, 15 minutes. Of course, years of punctuality weren't habits, easily broken. He was scrolling through his phone when he heard her voice. Nathan. He looked up and froze. The woman standing before him was striking. Late 20s, long blonde hair that shimmered under the cafe lights. A simple cream blouse that somehow made simplicity look elegant. But it was her eyes that held him steady, searching, almost knowing. He stood, smiling nervously. "You must be Claire." She shook his hand, polite but distant. "Thanks for meeting me. I know blind dates can be strange." He chuckled awkwardly. "Not at all. My sister says wonderful things about you." They ordered coffee and began the dance of small talk, work, family, hobbies. Nathan gave his well-rehearsed answer about corporate law, and Claire listened, asking questions that made it feel like she actually cared. Then he asked about her. "I'm a high school English teacher," she said. "It's not glamorous, but I love it. Watching students discover stories that change them, that's what keeps me going." "That sounds rewarding," Nathan said. "What made you want to teach?" Her smile softened, tinged with something deeper. "Because once, I had a teacher who saw me when I felt invisible. I wanted to be that for someone else." Before Nathan could respond, Claire leaned in slightly, eyes steady on his. "Can I ask you something? Of course, you don't remember me, do you?" The question hit like a sudden gust of cold air. Nathan blinked. "I'm sorry. Should one?" She smiled faintly. "We went to high school together. Westfield Academy. 15 years ago." Nathan's mind scrambled through old memories, hallways, faces, laughter. He'd been popular then, confident, part of the in crowd, but her name, Claire Morrison, didn't ring a bell. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't remember." "I didn't expect you to," she said gently. "You were Nathan Crawford, the golden boy. I was the scholarship kid trying not to draw attention. My dad was the school janitor." And just like that, Nathan remembered the jokes, the whispers, the cruel laughter from his group. He hadn't been the bully, but he'd stood by. He'd laughed along. Claire's voice was calm, but her words carried weight. "When your sister mentioned your name, I almost said no. Because back then, your friends made my life miserable. You didn't stop them." Nathan swallowed hard. "Claire, let me finish." Her tone was kind, but firm. "I just need to tell you this." She took a breath. "It was spring of your senior year. There was that big party at Jessica Winter's house. Everyone was there. I wasn't invited. I was working with my dad that night, cleaning offices. On my way home, I passed by the party. You were sitting on the steps alone, looking upset. I guess your girlfriend had just dumped you." A flicker of memory, a night long buried. "I tried to walk past quietly," she continued, "but you saw me. I thought you'd mock me. Instead, you asked if I was okay. You said it wasn't safe for me to walk home that late. You offered me $20 for a cab." Nathan's chest tightened. He had no memory of that moment, but he could picture himself. Drunk, heartbroken, trying to feel decent for once. "I didn't want to take it," Claire said softly. "I thought you were just trying to ease your conscience. But you said, it's not charity. It's just one human being looking out for another." She smiled faintly. "So I took it. I cried the whole way home. Because I couldn't make sense of it, how someone who stood by while others hurt me could also show such kindness." The cafe felt smaller, heavier. Nathan could barely meet her gaze. "Why tell me this now?" "Because," she said quietly, "when your sister described you sexual but lost, brilliant but lonely, I wondered if you remembered that night. I wanted to see if that boy, who cared, even for a moment, was still in there somewhere." Nathan's voice was rough. "I'm sorry, Claire, I really am. I was stupid. I thought being liked was more important than being decent." Claire nodded. "We were kids, but that small act, it stayed with me. It made me believe people could change. That kindness, no matter how small, matters." Something in Nathan shifted like a window opening in a stale room. "Your sister didn't tell you who I was," he said. "She did," Claire replied with a small smile. "That's why I agreed to come." They both laughed softly. The tension began to ease. They talked for hours after that about work, family, loss, hope. Nathan told her things he'd never told anyone. Claire spoke about her students, her father, her quiet little apartment full of books and plants. When the cafe finally closed, they stepped into the cool night air, neither ready to part. "I almost canceled tonight," Nathan admitted. "I told my sister I was too busy." "I'm glad you didn't," Claire said. "Me too." He smiled. "Would you like to do this again?" "On one condition," she teased. "Next time, no fancy cafe. There's a diner near my school with the best pie in the city." Nathan laughed. "I think the cafe version of me could use a little diner in his life." And so, They met again, then again, and somewhere around their 10th date, Nathan realized he was falling for the woman he'd once overlooked. A year later, he left his corporate job to start a nonprofit providing free legal help to families in need. The pay was smaller, but his heart was full. 2 years later, in that same diner, over a slice of pie, he slipped a ring onto Claire's finger. "You know what's funny?" he said softly. "That night, on the steps, I thought it meant nothing, but it led me to you." Claire smiled through tears. Kindness is never wasted. Nathan, not ever. They married in a small ceremony surrounded by friends, family, and Claire's students who held up books instead of flowers. Years later, they told their children the story of how a blind date wasn't really blind at all, but a second chance written long ago, because sometimes, it takes time to see the people we once overlooked, to realize that one small act of kindness can change to lives forever. That's not charity. That's humanity. And sometimes. That's everything. This story was brought to you by Whispers of Kindness, where we remind you that a single kind act can echo for a lifetime.